Welcome back everyone. Hi, if you're new, I'm Tori and today we are going to be giving out some book awards. So I love doing this video. I did skip 2021, but I wanted to bring this video back because I think this is such a great way for me to highlight books that are not going to be on my top 10 official best books of the year, but they're still books that I really enjoyed this year. And more specifically though, I enjoy these books for very particular reasons, whether that's, an atmosphere that really popped out at me this year, or a side character that I really loved, or a structure that just blew me away, or a cast ensemble. I have 9 books to share with you and I've put them into Oscar style categories. And so I hope you enjoy this video. Let's give out some awards. So the first category of the night is Best Supporting Actress, and I'm giving this award to Naomi Nagata from Abaddon's Gate, which is book 3 in the Expanse series. In Abaddon's Gate in particular, there are 2 other female characters who have a more prominent role than Naomi does in this book, but Naomi has been one of my favorite characters, not even just female characters, but just one of my favorite characters in the Expanse since I started Leviathan Wakes back in 2019. At this point, I've been reading this series for a long time and making slow progress. But when I did this video back in 2020, I gave this Best Supporting Award to Avasarala, who's also my other favorite character. But there is just something about Naomi that I really love. And even though she didn't have too many moments to really pop out and shine like she did in books 1 and 2. There is just something about her that is just so consistent and steady, and she is like the anchor, for me it feels like, at least, of the Rossi crew, and I love her so much. She's like the voice of reason for Holden. Whenever he wants to make some kind of foolish decision, Naomi is always that person who's just like, maybe we should think about that a little bit more. So she just really is that heart of the Rossi crew for me, and she's a character who I do miss when she's not on the page, especially when other main characters are in a scene together. Naomi just gets the job done. She holds it down for the crew, and I love her character so much, and I enjoyed her in Abaddon's Gate. So this award of the night is going to go to her. The next category is Best Supporting Actor, and this is an award that I'm going to give to Mark Hess from The Chestnut Man. I read The Chestnut Man a couple of months ago now. I read it for, moving into the Halloween and spooky season. So Mark is our main character, Thulin's partner in this book. He is like the true definition of a supporting character. Mark's character, I think, keeps The Chestnut Man moving in a way that would just be very difficult, if not completely impossible, without him. He's this really mysterious, kind of quiet character, but he's so observant and he sees everything. And so whenever he gets a lead or he's onto something, you gotta let him go. You gotta let him go do his thing and basically see what comes out of that. But at the same time, he does, like I said, he does have that air of mystery to him. So you're never quite sure what exactly is going on in his mind. We do get some chapters from his perspective, but when we're in Thulin's perspective, which is the majority of the book, you're just like, what is Mark doing? Has he found anything out? I think Mark is the glue that not only holds Thulin together, but holds this entire story together. And like I said, he is responsible for a lot of the more plot forward moments in this book. So I really enjoyed Mark's character in The Chestnut Man, and he's definitely one of the standout male characters that I read in 2022. The next category is Best Cinematography, and this is an award that I am going to give to 36 Streets by T.R. Napper. So this is a cyberpunk novel that I read earlier this year. It's actually a 2022 release, and I really enjoyed this overall. I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed our main character Lynn, but more than anything, which is why I'm giving it this award, I love the atmosphere of 36 Streets. I love the settings in this book. I love the way the story moves, the way things flow. It just feels like such a vivid and well-realized world. So in this, we have our main character Lynn, who is a top gangster in one of the most famous gangs in Vietnam, well, in Hanoi. Lynn's gang is approached to investigate after something happens to this foreign game developer while he is in Vietnam. This book was so good. The streets of Hanoi in this book, they are just, it's so gritty and dark and dangerous, and you feel that. T.R. Napper just creates the perfect imagery for this story, and he really brings the scenery to life with just some vivid descriptions of the setting and food and just the way that characters move, and I just feel like you're so in tune with that as a reader. There are moments when Lynn is ordering food and just the descriptions of it, you can just smell the food coming off the page. Even the scenes when she's taking a beat down, those scenes are so brutal and descriptive, and T.R. Napper doesn't hold back. So you just feel like you're there. You have this full picture of this world and how brutal and dangerous it is, and I just love that aspect of the story so much. The next category is Best Original Screenplay, and I have to give this award to Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I want to say Long Way Down was either one of, if not the first book that I read in 2022, and now all the way in December, I am still thinking about the structure of this book and how genius it is. So in this, we have our main character Will, and Will's brother was murdered at the very beginning of the book. And so Will, he goes back to their apartment, grabs his gun, and he wants to set out into the streets to basically go get revenge for his brother's murder. As he's leaving his apartment and getting on the elevator to go down to the lobby, the entire rest of the book takes place in the span of 1 minute as Will is on this elevator and he is being confronted with, you know, just the cycle of gun violence that has been in his life and has impacted the lives of those he loves. And he is just going through so many different emotions and thinking through so many different things. And just by the time he gets to the ground level and those elevator doors open, you just feel like you have experienced something incredible. I think Jason Reynolds was an absolute genius for this structure. And even still, all these months later, again, this is a book that has stayed with me and that I think everybody should read. The next category is Best New Author, and that is either a debut author or an author who was brand new to me in 2022. And for this award, I am gonna have to give this to David Wellington for The Last Astronaut. I read The Last Astronaut a few months ago, and this was so entertaining. This was the year I felt like I was getting a little bit more into like sci-fi horror. I'm not like into horror like as a standalone genre, but I'm finding that I'm really enjoying SF horror. This was so good. In this, we have our main character Sally, who is one of the last astronauts. The story actually starts when she was on a mission with her crew going to Mars, but something went wrong. Someone died on that mission. And after that, NASA grounded the entire space exploration program. And so now NASA's just kind of more of a shell of itself, just more focused on research, that sort of thing. And so things really get started though when it's discovered that this alien artifact has entered like the solar system, and now they're putting together this crew to go investigate, and it becomes a first contact story. And there are just some moments in this book that are so intense and so just creepy. I think this, even though this is classified as sci-fi horror, I think more than anything this would fit like more like sci-fi suspense, that sort of thing. I didn't find too many moments to be scary necessarily, but there were definitely some intense moments of just like, oh. So yes, David Wellington, I cannot wait to read more from him. I just really enjoyed the way this entire story unfolded. I enjoyed the atmosphere that was created and those more intense moments that could be classified as horror. So I did really like that. And just looking at David Wellington's body of work, it looks like he has written a few zombie novels. So I do want to get into that and see what's going on there. So yes, more David Wellington to come, but I think The Last Astronaut was definitely a standout for me this year for Wellington's books. The next category is Best Cast Ensemble. I have to give this award to Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 7th and final book in the Throne of Glass series. I started Throne of Glass almost 2 years ago to the date. I read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight back in late December of 2020, and here we are finally wrapping the series up. Now that I'm done, I can say that these are some of my favorite relationships in fantasy. And I'm giving this book the Ensemble Award because, you know, it's not just a couple of characters here and there that are friends and like little pockets like that. By the time we get to Kingdom of Ash, this cast of main characters has basically doubled in size from where we started. And just the sheer level of, I'm getting excited just thinking about it, but just the sheer level of love and loyalty and selflessness and this just strong willingness basically to sacrifice themselves for not only the greater good but for their friends. It's just the countless examples of that we see throughout this series, but especially in Kingdom of Ash. I think it's incredible. This is such a great cast of characters. I don't read ACOTAR, but I do read the Crescent City series, and that group is okay. Like Crescent City is fun, but there's really something about Throne of Glass characters that just, they're so good. I can't explain it more than that. They really are good. They're dynamic, the way that they interact with each other, the way that they are literally willing to die for each other. It's really beautiful. I've had a really great time making my way through the Throne of Glass series for the first time ever, and I think Kingdom of Ash was just an epic perfect ending to the series. The next category is the best book I haven't read yet. I did this category back in 2020 and I love this. It makes me think about like, what is a book that I just did not get around to this year that has been on my TBR all year long, and I'm just convinced that if I had read it this year, I would have absolutely loved it. I'm gonna give this award to The Bladed Faith by David Dalglish. I have had The Bladed Faith since it came out back in April. This has been on my shelf all year long, just staring at me, and I'm just like, oh, I'll get to you in May, oh, maybe in June, and here we are like in December and I'm still like didn't get to The Bladed Faith. This just sounds so epic. This is the first in a new fantasy series, and in this we have our main character Cyrus, and he was 14 years old when his parents were murdered right in front of him, and then from there he was held prisoner, but he was then broken out by this group of revolutionaries and told that if he, you know, works for them, then he can finally get the revenge that he's always dreamed of for his parents. Like I said, I've been wanting to read this all year, and I'm kind of mad that I did not get around to it because the second book is about to come out pretty soon. I think it comes out in like January, so I do want to get around to this, and I think this is going to be a start to a fantasy series that I'm really going to love. More to come on The Bladed Faith, but this is priority for 2023. The next category is Best Director, and this category is going to go to John Mars for The Passengers. The Passengers is probably one of the wildest books that I read in 2022. I loved every second of it. This really is the kind of book where you just hand over control to John Mars because you have no idea what is going on, what's going to happen. This is also a book that has just been on my shelf for so long, and I'm like, okay, I cannot get out of 2022 without reading The Passengers, so I gotta buckle down and read this, and it was so worth it in the end, you guys. So in this world of The Passengers, we have these self-driving cars, and the book starts with these just random, seemingly random civilians. They get into these self-driving cars and the cars are hacked, and from there it becomes up to the public to decide who to save, and everybody in the world is watching this. But the twisted thing is that the world is treating this, I mean, social media is treating this like a game, and it's so exciting, and it's so dark in that weird like Black Mirror kind of way. This was such a great first impression of John Mars. I loved every direction this book went in. The book also felt very concise. It wasn't just overly drawn out. Everything in the book made sense for the story, and by the end of this, there came a moment at the end where I was just like, what is going on in this book? It was great. I loved it, and definitely John Mars deserves Best Direction for this. And then lastly, we're going to get into the final two awards of the night. We have Best Actress, and this award can go to no one else but Sunja from Pachinko. I love her so much. She is a character that I have literally been thinking about almost all year. Just her determination and resilience and resourcefulness was one of the standouts for me. Like, reading that was one of the standouts for me in 2022. She really is one of the most incredible characters I've read this year. So if you have not read Pachinko, this is a sweeping, epic, historical family saga, and it starts in the early 1900s, and our main character Sunja, she's pretty young at the time, like a teenager, and she falls in love with this wealthy man, but soon after she learns that she's pregnant, and everything that happens after that moment just propels the story to epic heights. Sunja, she ends up rejecting the child's father, and from there she moves to Japan with her new family. And just the level of prejudice and vitriol that she experiences in Japan while trying to survive and raise her family is, oh, I'm getting actually teary-eyed just thinking about it. She really is one of the greatest characters this year. And as the years go on in this book, you're watching this family grow and change and fight to survive in the face of this war and this racism that they're experiencing. And so Sunja is at the helm of all of that. She is truly a star of this book. Just incredible. If you have not read Pachinko, I highly recommend it. This is one of the most impactful books that I've read in 2022. And then we have Best Actor, and this award is going to go to Gabriel De Leon from Empire of the Vampire. Almost instantly, Gabriel is such a mysterious and intriguing character, and the way that the story is framed and the way that it starts, you want to know as much as you can as quickly as possible about him. Gabriel, he is half human, half vampire, and when the book starts, he's being held captive. And just already you're like, how did we get here? What's going on? And Gabriel starts from the very beginning leading up to that moment. And we get this sweeping story of just how he joined this brotherhood and just really all the ups and downs of his life through that. And things get so intense. There was a moment in here that had me in tears near the end of it, because there's just so much tension that builds up, especially in the second half. And just the way that this timeline is framed is so good. It's so smart. But Gabriel never loses his focus. He remains this like kind of cool and collected storyteller, and he's someone that you want to listen to. So this book is a tome. It's pretty huge, but for Gabriel to keep you engaged for that long and invested in his story for that long, I think is pretty remarkable. So he was definitely a standout male character for me this year who I really enjoyed. But of course, he can't compare to the characters that are coming up in the best books of 2022. And then finally is Best Picture. And you guys have been so patient, but you're gonna have to wait one more week because I have 10 best books of the year to share with you. And I think this is going to be one of my favorite lists since I started doing the best books of the year. I've had a really big fantasy year, so there are a number of fantasy books on the best books of 2022 list, but I also have a romance book on the list, a little outside the comfort zone. I have a classic that I have never read before up until this year that just absolutely blew my mind. It's going to be a really, really great list, and it's going to be up next Tuesday morning, so we're going to have to wait for Best Picture for that. That is it for me, you guys. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Let me know down in the comments what were some books that you would put in these categories that you read this year. Who were some standout side characters? What was your favorite atmosphere? I really want to hear about it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.